Buenos días, muchas gracias a todos. Voy a presentar en inglés, pero puedo entender preguntas en español también. Y voy a tratar de hablar lentamente en inglés. Vamos a ver. My paper is a constructive retrieval of Suárez's theories of custom for application in contemporary context and in relationship to contemporary theories of jurisprudence. The idea that custom can shape law has largely fallen out of acceptance in discussions of contemporary jurisprudence, at least in most discussions. And a lot of scholars connect this disuse to concerns that arose out of the way Jim Crow laws relating to segregation were applied in the American South. Not just the facially neutral laws, but also the customs in various states that led to segregation and even persecution of African Americans. However, the concern about custom as law goes back even further in jurisprudence, really back to Jeremy Bentham and the birth of legal positivism. And these critiques have been carried on through legal positivism. Such legal philosophers as H.L.A. Hart, who also has concerns about custom, and more contemporary legal positivists as well. Bentham provides four critiques of custom that have been taken up to various degrees by different legal positivists. The first is a question of authority. Can custom, which arises from the actions of the people, not the will of the sovereign, ever actually be considered law? His second concern is epistemological. How can we know that the interpretation of any law is actually shaped by custom and not a judicial interpretation hiding behind a veil of popular consent? Bentham is always skeptical of anything a judge does, and he thinks that judges may use custom as an excuse to get their own ideas incorporated in law. The third are dangers of exploitation and immorality. He asks, can customs, by definition the actions of the majority, become law without endangering the rights and freedoms of the minorities? The fourth are limitations of modernity. Even if custom as law might be valid in some societies, small tribal groups, can custom function as law in a highly regulated modern world? And of course, Bentham's concerns about this would be heightened in our contemporary context that is even more regulated than Bentham's early modern England. In recent years, this loss of custom as law has been questioned by some legal theorists on the ground that custom can provide a useful expression of the experience and judgment of the people. In my paper, I argue that Suárez's theologically grounded theory of custom, as expressed in De Legibus, could make an important contribution to this revival of the consideration as custom as law. I consider how his theory of custom as law provides a response to Bentham's critiques and also offers exactly the type of theory of custom which studies on the development of law, particularly looking at issues around community organizing and popular engagement with law, bear out. Custom for Suárez has the potential to serve as a powerful tool of communal engagement to challenge and even reform unjust or morally problematic laws. Viewing custom as law means that there's room for recognition within a legal system of the validity of expressions of particularity and local practice without needing to overthrow or question the entire edifice of a legal system. In part of my paper, I consider these recent retrievals of custom as law within jurisprudence. I'm just going to focus right now on the points I want to make about Suárez's own theory of custom. So for Suárez, his theory of custom depends on his distinction between custom as fact as opposed to custom of law. He makes the point that custom of fact, a repeated moral action carried out by the community, always creates an after effect in the community, analogous to habit in an individual. Sometimes this after effect can simply be a propensity in the community to a certain kind of action. However, sometimes it actually creates a law. According to Suarez, custom has the potential to not simply be pre-legal popular reflection, which is what Hart and even Bentham think custom can be, but actually it is law. He writes, custom is not settled law, rather it settles law. In his theory, just as the commands of a legislator must contain specific elements in order to become a law, so must a custom of fact contain these elements to move to a custom of law. The elements which must be present in both instances are fitness of subject matter, appropriate power of a lawgiver, and will that the practice become law be sufficiently manifested externally. These three elements actually correspond to three of Bentham's key objections to custom. Appropriate power poses the question of authority. Fitness of subject matter is related to questions of custom's moral goodness. The idea that will of the people for the custom to become law must be manifested externally is related to the questions of how we know that a custom is no longer a custom of fact, but has become a custom of law. In addition, throughout his argument related to custom, he deals with Bentham's fourth critique, this idea that custom is not suited to a modern legal system. Considering the first criteria, the question of the authority of custom, he argues that the authority of custom flows from the power God has given to each perfect community to create law, a power which can never be fully transferred away. Any community which possesses the capacity to receive law will also always possess the capacity to establish law through custom, as long as the tacit consent of the legislator is in place. Suarez does not want to remove the authority of the legislator completely and place the power to make law from custom purely in the hands of the populace, knowing that that's the way that leads to chaos and corruption. Rather, he attempts to affirm the equally important roles of the legislator and the people. The proximate cause is the people who create custom by their acts. The primary cause is the sovereign power exercised through tacit consent. Both powers are necessary for the custom to become law, and accepting one does not require denying the other. For example, within a civil community, merchants functioning as a perfect community with respect to commerce may, with the prince's tacit consent, establish a custom which stands as a statute, what he describes as statutes of a quasi-municipal character. This example is one that most modern theorists who are skeptical of custom as law would find very hard to deny, considering that the Uniform Commercial Code, the UCC, which governs and shapes state law in the United States related to custom, is completely developed out of customary mercantile law, and that custom continues to inform most of the international law related to trade around the world. The second criteria, the knowledge of custom, is a place where I think Suarez makes a particularly psychologically compelling argument. So the challenge about knowledge is how to differentiate between customs of fact, repeated acts in a community, and customs of law. What are these repeated acts that the people intend to be considered as law? Suarez distinguishes between the base form and the intrinsic form. The base form is the same for both types of custom. The repetitions of acts of moral goodness and usefulness, uninterrupted for a sufficient time. The difference lies in the intrinsic form. Goodness. The will that the people that custom should become law. I'm going to stop down, so move quickly through my last two categories. The third custom, the morality of custom, is tied to Suarez's theory of natural law. He only thinks that custom can shape laws in areas that are morally indifferent according to the natural law, but that have significance for the particular community. This is why custom's important. The people may know on the ground what is the appropriate law for their community much better than the sovereign can, and their ability to shape law of custom is going to ensure the common good of the community. The fourth issue around whether or not custom can apply to a modern legal system really relies on, it's often phrased as a fear that customs are incapable of adjusting to changing times and can end up being formalistic and controlling. Suarez rejects this view. Rather than being oppressive and controlling, custom itself can be an important brake placed upon the power and reach of statutory law. Custom's inherent openness to change and flexibility is a key component of law's ability to promote the common good in each particular community. This change can be more affected by smaller communities modifying their own customs to fit the time than revisions eventually made by an apparatus of a large and bureaucratic state. In the end of my paper, I carry out an analysis of theories of contemporary community organizing and lay out how they actually align almost directly with Suarez's theory of custom as law. So happy to discuss that more, and I will end there. Thank you.